Two of the three nuclear weapons labs are in New Mexico. White Sands Missile Range captured rockets, all this kind of thing. Kirtland Air Force Base, largest employer in the state, got Sandia, Los Alamos, all this kind of stuff. Very legitimate concern. Whose are these? What do they want? You certainly couldn't go public. 2 years after the war, with half of Europe starving, that's when the Marshall Plan came in, it was right that same time. What are you going to say? Oh, we thought you'd like to know. There are aliens visiting us, and they're penetrating our airspace. We can't do a darn thing about it. We don't know where they're from, what they want, how they operate, but we thought you'd like to know. They couldn't possibly have done that. Totally irresponsible. So I think what happened there was the government was able to recover crashed saucers, wreckage, and bodies. Probably a live one out in the plains of San Augustine. What they learned from him, who knows? But remember, this proves not only that we're being visited, but the aliens are fallible. That's nice to know. You know, it proves that we can use the same techniques we used to keep the Manhattan Project nuclear weapons secret in New Mexico, mind you. You've got an analog there. How do you run security on big projects? They know how to do it right there. Same people were involved. So I think that we could mobilize. It's clear that we had very good reasons for wanting to monitor what was going on without letting the world know. We knew the Russians were growing, let's put it that way. You know, with the space race, it was our Germans versus their Germans, remember, when it came to who put what up. So I think Roswell, historic event, it seems not quite coincidence that the same group that dropped the first atomic bomb would be involved in recovering the first crash saucer.
Once they recovered it, tell us a little bit about MJ-12, what you think happened from there.
Well, I think as soon as you've got the wreckage, you have to secure it. That's the first thing. Make sure nobody gets access to it. But then you need an organizational structure to follow through on analyzing the different pieces of wreckage, on setting up systems that were highly sophisticated for monitoring the flight patterns, the electromagnetic signature, the color, the acceleration. You can do this from the air with highly sophisticated systems. It's what we do when the Russians approach the border and with airplanes. We did this. There was 40 years of this back and forth playing games, monitoring signatures and so forth. I think you do all those things, and the purpose of MJ-12 is to organize it all. Just like the Manhattan Project, you had this group trying to produce plutonium. You had this group looking at different means of separating uranium isotopes. You have this group trying to design things so you know how much critical mass you need and how to set off the nuclear explosion. And gee, maybe this one won't work. We better have at least two different techniques here, which we did have, the gun bomb and the implosion bomb. I mean, you send a piece to me. So I think MJ-12 would have made sure that there were really top engineers and scientists working on every little aspect of this thing, not always knowing what they were working on. And it would be the greatest challenge as a professional scientist who worked on a lot of far-out programs. I'd love to have worked on the program.
Would you fault the government at this point in time for still keeping a secret?
I couldn't fault them for what happened in 1947. I think they're absolutely right. What I can fault them for now is not letting people in a democracy have a voice in the policies they establish. These aren't elected people. Nobody on MJ-12 was an elected official. This defeats the whole purpose of democracy. To have a voice. I'm not saying put all the technical data on the table. I don't want that. But I think they have lacked the courage to take the appropriate steps to bring us up to speed, so to speak, about where we are in the local neighborhood, that we're not alone and so forth. Guts is what we're talking about. And they haven't had the guts. And they think that they have the right to make decisions for us. A lot of people have been ridiculed for saying things about UFOs because the government has continuously lied. They've lied about Roswell. They've come up with 4 explanations. I'm waiting for number 5. They've been dishonest. And, you know, it isn't right if you're demanding national security questions and so forth, then we're going to save the world for freedom and democracy. And they say, well, except for that stuff we're not going to tell you because we don't think you should have a say in what we do. I think that's fundamentally wrong. Doesn't mean putting everything out on the table, but it does mean sharing with the people in the country. Who the heck do these guys think they are? You know, knowledge is power, absolute knowledge is absolute power. That black budget scares the heck out of me.
Who do you think controls the information now? Is it MJ12 or a new version of them?
Well, I doubt if they're using the same name. When names are compromised, you change them when they go public. Some group like that, the intelligence community, the NRO, the NSA, CIA, DIA, these guys. I don't know what the president knows. With a $26 billion black budget a year for just the intelligence community, can the president know all that's going on? He'd have to spend every hour reading everything, you know. So that's not very likely. So I think there's an old joke. Presidents come and go. The intelligence agencies go on forever. That's about what happens.
One last question. In all your research and speaking out on the subject, what would you like to see come about from your work?
I would like to see the major news media get involved. Instead of spending their money and time on Monica Lewinsky, spend it on the biggest story of the millennium, visits to planet Earth by alien spacecraft, and the cover-up of the best data for 52 years.
Anybody else got any?
What a great
What a great line.
No, I